Hi, this is Austin's Animals, and today we're going to be opening up two modern Hasbro Ewoks. But before we crack open these bad boys, let's take a look at the figures themselves and the packaging that they come in. So the first figure we're going to open up today is Ramba. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're not going to be opening up an original 1985 Ramba, one of my Ewok prized possessions, I might add. But we are going to talk about him in a second because we can use him as a bit of a frame of reference for the original kennel packaging. And that's what these two figures come in. They are new action figures, but the packaging is attempting to emulate the look of the 1980s packaging. While Ramba is not from the exact series as these ones, he's from the Power of the Force collection, you can see how close they got down the pill shape and emulated the look. I do want to note that Ewoks usually didn't come in packaging pills this large, but they are given extra accessories than their 1980s counterparts, so that is understandable. As for the card artwork, Hasbro used exact pulls from the 1980s line. So Tebow here originally debuted in 1984, in the second year of Return of the Jedi toys. And the original photo that Kennel used was a great photo of Tebow. I believe this is when he is approaching, I want to say Han in his trench coat, and he's going to prod him with his staff there. And it does give the idea that Tebow was a more menacing Ewok than the others. After all, he does have an animal head on him, so it can be implied that he was some sort of warrior Ewok. Of course, if you've watched the cartoon, you'll know that this was later retconned, and that Tebow is actually a pacifist in the Star Wars canon, and he wears the animal head as a symbol of being a medicine man. So, interesting character arc Tebow has had here, but the action figure does a nice job of recreating the look of the figure, and we're gonna get a more detailed look on him when we crack him open. But as you can see, he is packed with accessories. On the back of the card, we can see some of the other figures that were available in this wave. And I don't see any Ewoks, so who cares? Okay, the next figure is Popeu. Popeu was released last year for the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm celebration, which honestly didn't really amount to much. They didn't release a lot of unique product, but we did get an Ewok out of it, so I can't complain. And all Ewoks are good Ewoks. This Popeu figure is packaged just like his 80s counterpart, and even includes the exact photo that was used on the 1985 Popeu figure, which is an interesting choice because you'll note that this Ewok is not Popeu. They look nothing alike. The one on the card back is much more orange, and his hood is significantly different, having sort of a cut right here, as opposed to the unique hood that Popeu has. So why does Popeu have the incorrect Ewok on his card? Well, we could just chalk it up to the 1980s, and Kennel being probably handed a black and white still image, and having to make this decision years before this figure even reached the pegs. But what's interesting is that Ramba, who was also released as part of the 1985 collection, features the same Ewok. And it is supposed to be Ramba. We can see that the hoods here very closely align, as well as the color and the kind of sideways belt. So there's an interesting fact for you, but Ramba is technically featured twice on the original Kennel line card backs. Once on Popeu's card back and once on his own card back. So pretty interesting and kind of neat that Hasbro decided to carry forward this mistake. I know with some of the other figures in the vintage collection, they've corrected the card backs, but I prefer this one, flaws and all, because I think it's interesting. But I'm not a carded collector. I like my toys open, as you can see, and displayed in my Ewok village. So let's do a quick cut and have these guys fresh off the card. First up, we have Tebow, who is absolutely loaded to the gills with accessories. I love when Hasbro makes up for the value of an Ewok by including a lot of goods, and that's certainly what Tebow has. But first, let's take a look at Tebow's sculpt. Tebow's head is nicely detailed and uses Hasbro's new 3D printing technology. because the head is 3D printed, if you look closely, you can see some lines and etchings where the head was printed. This is the case with all 3D printed product, and I honestly don't mind, because with a figure this small, when he's displayed like that, the head looks photorealistic and quite amazing. Tebow's boar head hat is included, or should I say cowl, because you get the full cowl here, and it is nicely detailed. It is one solid color, like the original 1984 figure, which I think is excusable. It's very charming. Tebow's fur is nicely detailed, and the figure has tons of articulation. His legs can swivel, his feet can move, even his wrists turn, and his elbows bend. Tebow has more articulation than the vintage collection Wicket, but given Tebow is usually associated with being a warrior or a medicine man that's, making potions, I think this is excusable, because he can be posed in a variety of interesting positions. Tebow even comes packed with his battle horn, slung to the side, which is featured in Return of the Jedi and more prominent in the Ewoks cartoon. So what are all these accessories Tebow comes with? Well, the first accessory included is Tebow's little dagger. This thing is so tiny, and I guarantee unless you stuff it in like a Ziploc bag or an accessory drawer, you will lose it. Still cool that they included it. Does it... Oh, I just realized it goes in this little sheath here. So there we go. So you could put this on Tebow as an alternate look if you want to make him more of a warrior. I would keep the knife always in there, unless you're going to actively display him in a battle position. So pretty cool that they included that. Tebow also comes with a bone necklace and an alternate hood. So why is this? Well, I've discussed before on this channel that the Return of the Jedi film shoot was a little tricky with the Ewoks. Initially, they filmed a bunch of footage in London, and then they had to go back to the Redwood Forest in California to do pickup shots. Well, when they did these shots, the Ewoks got slightly modified outfits. So Tebow has two distinct looks. One that was cut from the movie and is featured only in publicity artwork, and one that is seen in the movie. I can't remember which exact look goes where, so in the editing of this video, you'll see the publicity photo that Hasbro Kennel was given, and then you'll see the final film. So over the years, we've had a lot of Tebow figures, and some have replicated the different looks. So, for example, the 2001 Tebow action figure clearly replicates this look. You can see in the photo, I've edited inconveniently, that the full cowl is present, as well as the knife and dagger with side bandolier. However, he does not include his bone necklace and helmet. Also included is this little, rock stick thing. These are included with almost all of the Ewok figures. Oh, and there it goes on the ground already. And it can easily be lost, like I just dropped it there. But I like to put these in the hands of Ewoks and make them look like they're building things and working on things. Good piece for dioramas. The final piece that Tebow comes with is kind of strange. These are the two drumsticks that the Ewok uses at the end of the movie to drum. Though, if memory serves correct, I don't think Tebow was the one drumming. Still cool that they were included, and I'm not going to complain over getting more stuff. And they are, if I can focus, nicely detailed little drumsticks. So you might be thinking to yourself, is this a new action figure of Tebow? Well, not really. This is actually just a repaint of a much hard-to-find 2012 figure of Tebow from the Phantom Menace 3D collection. A lot of casual collectors don't even remember the Ewok pack, released in 2012, but it included some truly amazing figures, yet has become very desirable on the aftermarket. So I'm really happy that this figure got to live a second life, and it seems to me like the drumstick inclusion is something that was just carried over from the Ewok pack. I get why it was included in the Ewok pack, because it's called the Ewok pack, and you get a lot of Ewok stuff. But it's interesting that when just Tebow was carried forward, they decided to pick the drumsticks. So for those curious, here is the Ewok pack Tebow, and I have him displayed in the alternate necklace and hat. That way I can have both of these guys in my village and have both versions of Tebow. I would honestly just recommend buying 2 of this figure if you want both looks, because the 2012 Tebow is just really expensive. He's very overpriced. That said, he's still a great figure, and I actually kind of prefer the 2012 figure. The 4 is a little lighter, and it's a little rougher. See how this one, the lines are more defined? And then the head is the big difference. The head is much different. So the one on the left is the 3D printed head, and the one on the right is the hand-painted and sculpted head. I definitely think the hand-painted one looks much better. The decision to color his eyes, mouth, and nose the color of his hood was the right way to go. And even though it may not be the most accurate depiction, this is a toy, and it's important to remember the aesthetics of the toy. I just think it looks nice that the lips match the top of the hat. Yes, this one may be an exact 3D print of the head from the movie, in which Tebow has the purple eyes and mouth, but I just think it looks a little goofy. Plus, if those 3D printing lines really bother you, you won't get that with this version. So, it's just a matter of preference, which one you like more. I think both are solid figures, and obviously the one on the right is ridiculously expensive. So unless you can get a really good deal on the Ewok pack, I would take a hard pass and just get this guy here. So, I will say I commend Hasbro for re-releasing difficult, hard-to-find figures, even if he has to have a new head. Still cool that this guy is available, and he's just a fantastic, fun figure. At the end of the day, both versions are fun, and both are Tebow, and Tebow is awesome. Okay, now on to Popeu. Okay, so here is Popeu, and you'll notice instantly that we just don't get as much fun stuff as Tebow does. There's no drumsticks or alternate hat. We literally just get the basics, which is Popeu's tiny, tiny knife that I want to note I actually own this figure already. I was just buying a second to review for the channel, and I already lost this knife. So this knife is going right in there and never to be released again. I don't know why they make such tiny knives for these Ewoks. I guess it has to be in scale for the little dudes, right? And Popeu comes with his staff, which is admittedly a nice accessory. It's very richly detailed and totally has that Ewok aesthetic to it. But that's it. That's all you get. So does Popeu live up to the hype, or should I say the, what's the word I'm looking for? The exclusion of all the fun items? Well, kind of. I think it's a great action figure, honestly. You might notice the body is very similar. And yes, it is a complete reuse of Tebow. So really, this is just a head swap of the figure we previously reviewed. Now, I'm okay with that, and I'm going to excuse that because all Ewoks have very similar bodies. And this one is kind of awesome. It features tons of articulation, like I had previously said. And if getting a new body meant less articulation, I would much rather have the Tebow. Oh, the Tebow body. He does have trouble standing on his own compared to Tebow, and I think that has to do with the weight of his hood. His hood is a lot larger than Tebow's, and it is very nicely detailed with lots of paint apps, unlike Tebow's, which was one solid color. But I think it adds a little bit of color to the Ewok collection, and I'm happy they didn't overdo it. They didn't put like a ton of dirt and weathering. It just looks very classic. And that's something I want to talk about because this figure is somewhat of a controversy, excuse me, in the Star Wars collecting community. I had previously reviewed in my video the top 5 best modern Ewoks. I talked about the Legacy Collection Popeu, which is its own fantastic figure. And when this figure came out, many fans felt that it was a downgrade from the 2009 Popeu. And I could see why. The 2009 version has a much richer weathering on the hood. It looks so much more real. And the face is so much more expressive. Here we can actually see Popeu screaming as he rides the speeder bike in Return of the Jedi. This looks like it was lifted just out of the movie, while this one definitely takes its own artistic license. He's taller, and he's a bit beefier because he uses that Tebow body, and I could see why movie-accurate fans who already own this figure would see no reason to upgrade. However, I am going to defend this Popeu action figure. And my defense is that this figure, which was released for the Lucasfilm 50th on a vintage cardback, is not intended to be the most movie-accurate Popeu ever made, but rather a modern update to the original Kenner action figure. So this is my Kenner Popeu, and I don't have his hood because it's a pricey item. But know that his hood looks just like this one. Well, it's solid color, and it's not meant to look very weathered or real. The second tell on this is the face. So if we look at his face, it's kind of got these big pouty lips and these kind of big black lifeless eyes. It's a head sculpt that I've seen a lot of people complain about, but when compared to the 1985 figure, well, it's pretty spot on. It looks like an exact update. So I think this was used as the reference material because he was re-released on a vintage cardback. And you know what? I'm happy that we have both. That we have two Popeus. One that beautifully recreates the movie, and one that is a modern update to the 1985 original. I love the 80s Ewoks with all of their flaws and charm. And one day I would love to see all of the vintage Ewoks updated for the modern line. But unfortunately, that is still not the case, as we don't have a particularly good Ramba yet. And Ramba's the best Ewok. So you'll notice as I've kind of fussed with this figure that he has a lot of trouble standing. Something that Tebow did not have. I don't know why this is. It might have to do with the hood. It might have to... is the staff? And it could just be due to the manufacturing of the figure. There we go. The legs might have been tooled a little differently. But, you know, with a little bit of playing, he does stand. And I think it's a fine figure. It's been about a year since this guy was released, and I've noticed he doesn't stick around on pegs. Yeah, he does tend to sell, whereas Tebow, I've actually still seen at Target. So that's pretty interesting. But if you do your short searching, you can still get both of these guys for a great price, and I'd highly recommend you do, because Ewoks just constantly go up in value. And with the 40th anniversary of Ewoks next year, I anticipate we're going to see some really cool product. So thanks for watching and enjoying and checking out these fun figures with me. And have a wonderful day. Oh, there they go again. Ewoks forever falling.